This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage, your place for all things Wisconsin sports. Now, your host, Trage.
How we doing, everybody, and welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back on this Wednesday, June 18th, a fantastic Wednesday here in the great state of Wisconsin. It's been a little rainy as of late here, but I mean, they tell me it's supposed to warm up over the weekend, so it's going to feel like summer's finally here. It's been kind of crazy. I mean, just the weather has not really gotten, much better. I mean, it's been nice at times, but just not really hot. It hasn't been a hot summer yet, so we'll see if it finally starts to warm up a little bit out there and we start to get that summer weather here as we get towards the end of June into July already here. So, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. I hope you enjoyed your Father's Day weekend. I got a great gift. My little man and the wife, they got me a little neck light, a Milwaukee neck light. It's got LED lights on it. It was a fantastic gift. And then a little card with his handprints in there and everything like that. So it was awesome. Awesome Father's Day there. Spent it early in the morning with him. I think we woke up. I think me and the wife were up about, she was up before me there about 2 a.m. Then I got up about 3 o'clock because he wasn't ready for bed. Right. So I laid him down to bed and he woke back up. So we sat awake for a long time then for the rest of the day. So that was great. It was a good weekend. I mean, he's been great and everything like that there. So over the weekend, I went down to Foreman's. Make sure you guys are shopping out at Foreman's there. Sponsor the show here, get all your landscaping supplies and everything like that. But I stopped down at Foreman's this weekend. They had customer appreciation. Hopefully you guys made it down there too. They had, a great stuff. They had a little bit of a grill out kind of thing going on. They had hot dogs and they had, some other stuff, some dips that they made. And then there was this pickle relish. They used the Casa M spices. We're going to have Casa M joining us here on the show and as a sponsor, and they used some cotton spices, and the relish was just fantastic. So it was just a fantastic customer appreciation. And actually, I met Dustin from Warm Kids Wisconsin, the charity group that we're a part of here on the show. Dustin from Warm Kids Wisconsin was there. And when I tell you, he was down there for customer appreciation. He texted me. He's like, hey, I'm going to stop down there. I want to see what's going on at Foreman. So he stops down. And there's going to be a donation jar there. So if you guys are looking to donate to Warm Kids Wisconsin, you look into them, look across social media, follow them across social media, and then make sure you're donating out to the cause out there. If you stop it at Foreman's, get 5% off. And then also tell them Trade Snatch, get 5% off, donate to the bins. It'd be awesome. It'd be an awesome trip, right? But I met Dustin from Warm Kids Wisconsin, and he had his little boy down there. And listening to him, everything that he has to say about him, his wife, and his family, and everything like that. He's a fantastic person. They're a fantastic group of people over there, and their cause. I learned more about it. I've watched the videos. You watch him over that TikTok. He does great videos on TikTok and everything like that. And just a great guy all the way around. And he was telling me more about what they do and what they're about, right? And everybody thinks, okay, Warm Kids Wisconsin, they're about coats. No, they're about snow pants and boots. A lot of people do coats. Not a lot of people do snow pants and boots. And when they give you snow pants and boots, they don't just get the cheap, knockoff snow pants or anything like that where a kid's going to freeze within 5 minutes. No, they get the good stuff. They make sure that they go out and they get the good brands and the good styles and everything like that. So talking with him, they work directly with the schools now. They don't want to go, person to person. It's hard to go to people these days because it's hard to trust people, right? They've had run-ins with scammers and stuff like that. So they try to avoid that. They work with schools directly. They're trying to expand, and what they need is people. They need more people to be involved in it. They need groups like us, anybody who can share them out to get their name out there, because look into them, see what they're about. They're about getting kids warm clothes for the winter. We know as, adults, everything like that it's late in the night here. So the kids should be asleep. They shouldn't be listening to me talk right now. And if you are, how are you doing tonight? But anyways, we know as adults, that kids, it gets cold. We get cold. Kids are going to get cold. They want to be outside. They want to play in the winter. They want to play in the snow. They need those warm clothes. And that's where Warm Kids Wisconsin comes in. You can't get them those clothes. The school district will help. They'll find ways to get Warm Kids Wisconsin involved. That's what they need. So if you're a part of a school district out there and you see kids in need and stuff like that, definitely have them reach out to Warm Kids Wisconsin. They are more than willing to get in there. They want to expand as much as they can. The plans that they have are unreal. They want to get all the way over to Green Bay. They have, some talks over in Green Bay already. They want to get all the way into Minnesota. They want to get up to the UP. They want to be all over the state at some point here and all into other states at some point. So it's awesome what they're doing there and the quality of stuff and the quality of people that you'll be working with at Warm Kids Wisconsin. So make sure you are looking them up there, Warm Kids Wisconsin out there. It was a fantastic weekend. And when I got to meet him, it just made it even better. I had a graduation party going on, and then he was coming to town. I was like, I'll go meet you up there. And just a fantastic person and a great guy to meet there. So make sure you're following him across social media there. But the weekend, right? I mean, we had NBA Finals going on. I want to talk about that a little bit today. I think Kyle's going to come on later. He's been under the weather, so I don't know if Kyle's going to be able to stop by today and talk a little NBA. So we might just talk a little NBA here to start the day. But I mean, NBA Finals going on. We had the Brewers taking on the Cardinals over the weekend. That was an interesting series. We got the series win, a big series win, right? And then we had the little scuffle with Wilson Contreras. I want to talk about that today, so I want to get into that. I want to talk, like I said, a little NBA, a little bit of Bucks talk there. I maybe we'll get to the Badgers, that NCAA violation. I don't know if we'll get there today. We have a lot to get into. Ummer's going to be stopping by. I want to talk a lot of Packers. We heard Ed Policy talk, so I want to talk about what Ed Policy had to say there. We got, Jair's dad's in the news. We had, I saw some comments by Peter Bukowski over there on Locked On Packers, so I want to talk about some of what he had to say on his show there. So, lots to get into tonight here on the show. But as always, the way that I love to start it here, coming off the weekend, is what was grinding my gears coming off the weekend. What was grinding my gears? And what was grinding my gears is I'm seeing a lot of people across social media, and they I don't want to say they abuse stats, but they come up with a lot of different stats that don't realistically mean anything to me at all. Right. So I have this guy over on TikTok. And he's a big Rangers guy. I can't top of my head. I'm blanking on what the name of the show is called, but he's a big Rangers guy. And if I remember the name, I'll spurt it out there. But he made a video, and he was talking about Corey Seager. And everybody knows Corey Seager. He's a fantastic shortstop, fantastic baseball player. And he said that Corey Seager should be in the All-Star conversation. Corey Seager's batting if around 240, right around 240. He said that Corey Seager should be in the All-Star conversation simply because his expected batting average due to contact quality is 290 plus. Is 290 plus. That's why he believes that Corey Seager should be in the All-Star conversation. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess so. But in my opinion, that means nothing. This expected, the stats that they come up with nowadays. You look over, okay, let's go look at, for a second here, let's just look at shortstops in the American League. Look at batting averages. Right now, Jacob Wilson's batting 362. Jeremy Pena's batting 320. We see J.P. Crawford batting 293. Josh Smith with Texas batting 288. Okay. So in all of that, I don't see where you would even throw where you throw Corey Seager in that group. You don't. There's no spot where it's like, oh yeah, he's hitting better than this guy. So I see what he's saying. Where look at Joey Ortiz as of late. You want to talk about a guy who's making some hard contact, who's got some unlucky streak right now? It's Joey Ortiz. He's making hard contact. He's flew up to the wall a couple times against Cardinals. He had a couple hard hit balls against the Cubs there in game one. He's been hitting the ball better. It's just he's hitting right at guys. So I get, the argument of some guys are just having bad luck. But bad luck does not equal all-star. Just because you haven't expected, well, you expect him to get a hit. Yeah, okay, it's expected to be hit, but a guy who caught it. So you got to find a way to either hit it over him or hit it on the ground, whatever it is. You got to find a way to get on. You flying out to the warning track doesn't look any better than you flying out to the middle infielders. It doesn't. End of the day, realistic. Okay, looking at it in a grand scheme of things, if you fly out to the wall, it looks a lot better than flying out to the second baseman. But at the same time, what's it really add up in the scorebook as an out? Unless if there's runners on and you drove them in with a sac fly, it realistically means nothing. So, and it's not just, I don't want to call him out. He's a great guy. I don't want to call it just him out on this one. But there's a lot of people out there who it just seems like lately just abuse stats and are like, oh, this stat, these stats, all these stats, WAR for a while there, wins above replacement that got created not too long ago. They add OPS, and there's a lot of different, they just add crap together like this and this and this, OPS and on base percentage and slugging and WAR. And there's too many stats. it's hard to even keep up. And they're like, oh, well, he's better in this and this. And it's like, I don't even care about that stat. Like, what happened to just batting average and home runs and doubles? And what happened to that? On base percentage is good enough, but like, what is all these? It's just too many stats and too many stats to rely on. And then now you got people saying that guys are good just because they're expected to, that they should have an average like this. It's like, no, they don't have an average like that though. So it doesn't really matter. So I guess, I don't know. That just kind of grinds my gears as people abusing stats in that way by saying, oh, well, this guy deserves to be this because of this. I don't like that. Outside of that, the other one, this weekend was not that bad. I don't have a lot that's grinding my gears, I guess, coming up. The thing that's grinding my gears more than anything right now is construction. Construction is, I get, everybody's going to be like, well, Trace, come on now. It's summer. Wisconsin's got a lot of construction. I get that. But, Greenwood, the Blue Bridge is out. On 73 going out of town, they got bridges out going to the north there. And then, the sidewalks were being redone and everything like that. And then 29, when you get up there going both directions, there's construction both ways for like miles on end. And they're only working on 1 mile of the road. It's like got cones lined up 30 miles up there, and we're working on 1 mile. Why do we got cones for the whole 30? I don't know. Construction sometimes just irritates me because for months on end, you know that there's going to be construction there, but nobody's there. It's just cones lined up. And you're like, okay, when are they going to start construction? Oh, it says this date. And it's like, oh, and also K&H Corners is shut down. That's screwing up everything. I was working at a farm the other day. It was literally the farm that I was at. I had to go to a different one, and they were like 5 miles apart, but it ended up being like a 20-minute trip because the intersection was shut down. So I couldn't go across. I had to go all the way around. It was just like, sometimes that just irritates me. So yeah, that was grinding my gears over the weekend. There's just all this stinking road construction. I get it. It's summertime in Wisconsin. You're going to have road construction, but at the same time, oh man, it just irritates me. It just absolutely irritates me with all this construction. So that's grinding my gears coming off the weekend. I want to get to a little bit of the NBA talk here off top of the hour because the NBA Finals is heating up right now. Kyle, like I said, I don't know if Kyle's going to be able to stop by tonight here. If he does, we'll get more into this because you guys know how in-depth Kyle loves to get with the NBA and the NBA playoffs here, but I don't know if he's going to stop by. So I just want to kind of talk about it today here. So the Thunder took Game 5. Game 6 is scheduled for Thursday. It's going to be in Indiana. If the Thunder win, they get their first championship in a long time. It's been a long time. And you think about the teams that they've had. Look about Kevin Durant and James Harden and Russell Westbrook team that they couldn't get it done. And they blew the lead, right? Now we look at them, it's like, okay, this young gun team with Shea Gilgeous. And Williams played fantastic. You got Chet Holmgren on that team. Alex Caruso has been playing great for him in the playoffs here. So you have a younger team right now than we saw there. And they got a chance to give the Thunder the first championship in a while there. The Pacers, same boat. But the Pacers, backs against the wall. They haven't been to this point in this postseason very often, the Pacers. And right now, they're kind of working with Tyrese Haliburton was hurt last game there. I don't know. I was kind of, when they told me he was hurt and the Thunder were up by a boatload, and I know they came back and made it close, the Pacers did. But I would have just sat Tyrese Haliburton. Like, why risk it? If he was injured and that's what was affecting his game, and that's why he had 0 points. At one point, I think he was at half or something like that. Wouldn't have had him out there. Honestly, I don't like the Pacers. I don't like Tyrese Haliburton. You guys all know that. But at the same time, I'm like, he's one of your best players and he's been playing well in the playoffs. Do you really want to lose him for the rest of it? Because if you lose him for the rest of it, you're done. Like, that's it. You're not winning 2 games without Tyrese Haliburton. So, right now, the Thunder heading to Indiana, they're going to have 3-2 series lead right now, have their little bit of breathing room, right? When the Pacers won Game 3, I honestly, Kyle and I were texting back and forth, and we're talking about it, and I was like, Kyle, I said, if I'm the Thunder, I'm nervous right now because the way the Pacers looked in Game 3 and the way the Thunder looked, it looked like Pacers could win Game 4. They could be up 3-1 in this series. And then the Thunder would be backs against the wall, not having been in this situation very often throughout the season. We talked about that with the Thunder is that they're a team who, look at their margin of victory all season long. They blew teams out. They blew teams out a lot. So the way that it was kind of shaping up here, it was like, the Pacers, if they can take a 3-1 series lead, this is a team in the Thunder that hasn't really been backs against the wall too often. But they're backs against the wall 2-1, and they found a way to win Game 4, and then they won Game 5. So, just some impressive games out of the Thunder. We'll see if they can wrap it up. Game 6 coming up here on Thursday. If they need it, Game 7 would be Sunday there. And then when Kyle comes back, if he's not here today, like I said, if he doesn't stop by today, When we come back next week, we'll be able to talk about the wrap-up of the NBA Finals, the wrap-up of the season there, and then we'll also be able to look ahead to what we're going to see this offseason there, because there's a lot of crazy stuff that's been happening with the NBA right now. And I want to get into a lot of it next week there with Kyle, but I was asked the question of what would you grade the NBA Finals this year versus past years? And, this it's a question that's been passed around by a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people on Facebook, and that I've thoroughly enjoyed this playoff series. There's no Steph, there's no LeBron, there's no KD, there's none of that crazy. It's nobody. Alex Caruso, right? He's there. But outside of that, there's nobody that's like they've been finals, and it's not the repetitive motion that we were in with the Cavs Warriors for a year, and they made that meme where it was like 2075 Cavs Warriors again. Like, we're not in that mode right now. We have two young gun teams, two teams who stars are going to get their first championship. Is it going to be Shea? Is it going to be Tyrese? Are we going to see Indiana win their first in a while? Are we going to see a team like Oklahoma City win their first in a while? It's an awesome year, I would say. So I would say probably about a B+. I don't like the Pacers are there, so I'll give it a B+. Outside of that, I love what I've seen. This has been an exciting finals. The games have been close compared to the rest of the playoffs. They've been good games. They've been close. So I've enjoyed this finals thoroughly. I really have. So that's all we're going to get into the NBA right now. We'll see if Kyle stops by today. If he can't, we'll talk more NBA next week here on the show. But we got lots to get into today. I want to talk a little bit of Brewers. We're going to talk Brewers here when we come back. I want to talk about Willson Contreras, that whole situation from what I saw over this weekend there. I want to talk a little bit of the card series, talk about a little bit of Brewer talk. Are they buyers or sellers later on here? And then I want to get to the Packers here with Ummer. We're going to get to the Packers with Ummer as we wrap up the hour, getting into the next hour. So we're going to talk Packers with Ummer there. So we got lots to get into tonight here. We are just getting going. 1 hour of Wisconsin, or 2 hours. My mistake. Wow. Oh, goodness. 2 hours of Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade is just getting going. We'll be right back here after this quick commercial break. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. I'm your host, Trade. We're coming back on this June 18th. I hope you guys are enjoying your night there. And hey, at any point in the show, if you want to text in, let us know what you're thinking. Bucks, Packers, whatever you want to talk about tonight here on the show. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. So I want to get to what kind of we saw over the weekend here. But before we get there, this next segment of the show here is brought to you by our friends down there at Foreman's Hardware. They offer you everything from home essentials to farm supplies, house to farm, grills to drills. Foreman's Hardware has got you covered. Visit today in Loyal, Colby, or Medford, Wisconsin. There, tell them Trade sent you. Get 5% off. What could be better? Go down there. You need a Traeger. You need some pellets for that Traeger. You need a grill, whatever it is. Maybe you need some potting soil. They still got potting soil, bird seed, whatever you need. Milwaukee tools, they got it all down there. That's why I go for my Milwaukee tools down there at Foreman's Hardware. But you need it. Tell them Trade sent you. Get 5% off. Nothing better than anything like that there. And you can also grab some Casa M spices, because that's what you need when you get that Traeger. You need to spice up your meat. That's what you need, Casa M spices. So I want to get to what we saw over the weekend. And the big thing that actually it probably had a lot of Major League Baseball kind of stirring, because they live for excitement. I saw MLB Now was talking about it a little bit there. And that was the situation with Willson Contreras. Caleb Durbin was involved. Kid you not, Caleb Durbin doesn't seem like a guy would really get involved in that, but Caleb Durbin was involved. Rhys Hoskins, of course, was involved. And so if anybody missed the game, I'm guessing most people have seen the clip and everything like that by now, but Willson Contreras, there's a ground ball. Durbin grounds out and throw it first in time, everything like that. Durbin's running down the line, and Willson Contreras gets the ball at first. Instead of stepping forward away from the baseline, anything like that, he steps backwards into the baseline, kind of. And, he doesn't play first base. So I had a lot of people, tell me across social media, it's like, oh, well, he's not a natural first baseman, so he doesn't know. You don't know after you make an out, no matter where you are. Why would you step into the baseline? Like, when I watch it, was it intentional? No, I don't think it was intentional. I really don't. Did it look worse than what it was? Yes. And why? The way that Willson Contreras acted after the situation. If you run into Caleb Durbin, you didn't mean it, right? Caleb Durbin, like even Willson Contreras said, Caleb Durbin's a young guy, first year in the league. Why would I be trying to hurt him? Right? I don't want to hurt him. It's his first year. Okay. So after you knock him down, you just basically walked away. You kind of walked out, and then you started chirping with the Brewers dugout. Doesn't make it look better, right? Then Hoskins gets hit, then Contreras gets hit, and then Contreras, puts the ball in Quintana's glove, runs down the first, and him and Hoskins are having a little conversation down there. And we hear, after it was all said and done there, we hear Wilson Contreras after the game in a press conference. And he had some choice words for the media about what was said. And, Rhys Hoskins, when they asked him, Rhys is like, it's, whatever happened. Like, he didn't say anything, basically. He's like, it's over. Like, nothing. Professional, right? Moved away as a professional. And then, Caleb Durbin, nothing really. Wilson Contreras acted like an entitled child. That's as basic as I can put it. He acted like he was a child after all this happened. Not saying some choice words after the game and saying, well, they have all this stuff to say when I'm a distance away, but then when I'm up in their face, well, then they have nothing to say, and I was looking for more. Are you really? Like, why? Why is that what you want out of that situation? Why couldn't you just be a grown-up here? Because you have been in the league for a while. Why can't you just be a grown-up and just say, oh, hey, Durbin, sorry I just stepped backwards in the line. That's my bad. Instead, you act like a child. That's the way that I looked at it, to be honest with you. He is, I love William Contreras. I think William Contreras is a great dude, great personality, everything like that. I think his brother's the exact opposite and a great a-hole. That's it. Not a nice guy. I wouldn't want him on my team. We go back in the history. This isn't the first time. I think it was 4 years ago. The Brewers hit him on back-to-back nights. I think Devin Williams got him up in the head or something like that, and I think he was hit by Boxberger then later in the game. And, it's not the first time that the Brewers have had a little scuffle with Contreras. It's just the Brewers, Contreras is just, a nuisance. And not even a good nuisance. Nuisance, like Paul Goldschmidt, good nuisance. Like Paul Goldschmidt, the reason why I dislike Paul Goldschmidt when he plays the Brewers is Paul Goldschmidt seemed to get a hit. It doesn't matter who he was playing for. He could be batting 200 at the time. And after that series was done, you would have thought he was batting 400 going into the series. That's just Paul Goldschmidt over Pujols. Like you had those guys where they're like nuisances because they're good. And then you just have a nuisance like Wilson Contreras because he's just a nuisance and he just wants to be. And he does these childish things and he tries to stir the pot. Why are you trying to stir a pot? You trying to start a brawl and then to say, oh, Rhys Hoskins didn't have nothing to say. I got to tell you this right now. I don't see Rhys Hoskins as a dude. Rhys Hoskins doesn't seem like a dude where like he's going to back down. No. He just had enough of you. Nothing more that he wanted to say. He spoke his mind, told you what he thought. Didn't think you played the position right, what you should have done, and you didn't act like a professional when it was all said and done. What more did you want? So I don't get people defending. I saw a lot of Cardinal fans are like, "Oh, Wilson was in the wrong here," and it's like, where was he then? What did you see there? What did you see there? 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. What did you think of the Wilson Contreras situation? I'm not trying to overreact because nothing really bad happened out of it. It was just, to see the amount of people who were like, and then MLB Now is like, and I agree with what they were saying, where I didn't think it was intentional. I did not think that 1 second of that was intentional. I don't think he was trying to hurt Caleb Durbin. I just think he made a boneheaded decision over at first base because he's not used to playing there. And when he did it, he acted in a way that was unprofessional when it was all said and done. Like he was some tough guy, macho tough guy. When in all reality, dude, nobody cares. You just made yourself look like a fool. because you can't just get out of the way. It was an easy play. The play was done. You were about to throw it around the horn. And instead of just stepping forward like the common person would, you step backwards into the line? Really? I mean, now you're basically like the Machado situation when he tripped up on Jesus Aguilar's foot. Basically the same thing happened there. So I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys got to say about that whole situation there. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. Let us know what you're thinking there about that situation. So after all that happened, I had a question. It was about, after this happened, I had this question that was asked. And it was, who is on my Brewers all-time villains list? Like those guys you just dislike because you're a Brewer fan. Maybe you just dislike them because when you're a baseball fan, you just dislike them. You don't like the way they play the game. What is your list of Brewer villains, like villains to you as a Brewer fan? And I got my list. I'd love to hear yours. 715-990-4914. That's 715-990-4914. I'd love to hear your Brewers villains list. My list. Simple. It's real simple. My list is real simple. Manny Machado. I don't even know if I'm supposed to dislike him anymore because, honestly, what happened, it was a while ago. Like, most people are like, why do they still boo him? I'm still going to boo him. I don't like him to begin with. I thought what he did, he's got a dirty streak to him, so I don't like him. So Machado. Greg Council's on my list. He's got to be. Craig is like, I think we're fine off without Craig, but it's just the way that he went about it. And then he went to Chicago, out of all places, like the first. That's where he went, was Chicago. That irked me the wrong way. So I still have this, like, would not say like hatred, but dislike. And he's a villain. Jesse Winker. I don't know if I'd call him a villain as much as I would just say I dislike this dude with a passion. I just think he's annoying. Last year he was annoying. He had one hit in the entire series. And one Mets fan told me it was the biggest hit of the series. And it's like, dude, it happened in the first inning of game one. Like, congratulations. I don't know what. Like, congrats. Game one. That boy. I'm like, woohoo. Like, oh, God. Like, settle down. Settle down. So Jesse Winker, he's just stunk in Milwaukee. And then he leaves and he just becomes annoying. Like that. Yeah. So Jesse Winker. Jeff McNeil is not really a villain, is more or less, I just wanted to put him on the list because it's funny that he's on there. Him and Rhys Hoskins going at it last season. That was hilarious. So I put Jeff McNeil on there. Javi Baez, he made my list. Javier Baez, just for his years with Chicago. Not anymore, like, he doesn't really bother me anymore. But those years with Chicago, he was a nuisance. He was just a nuisance. I just like when, I can't remember, it was that, he had a throw to first, and he like airmailed the first baseman by like 15 feet and threw it up into the net. And I was like, yeah, that's why we put the nets there, just for Javi Baez to throw it into. So there, Javi Baez on my list. Paul Goldschmidt, I talked about him a little bit earlier there. Just a Brewer killer. It didn't matter what was going on. Paul Goldschmidt was going to get at. Freddie Freeman's in that same boat for me. It just seemed like Freddie always hits the Brewers. Paul Goldschmidt always hits the Brewers. So I would say those two are kind of hand in hand. Just always beat up on the Brewers. I don't dislike them as people. Like, I think Freddie's a great dude. It's just when he plays Milwaukee, I can't handle him. He just always seems to come up with a big hit and a big moment. Same with Paul Goldschmidt. So I'd say those two are in that boat for me. And then Wilson Contreras. You have to after this last weekend here. But, he's always been, like I said, I don't even know if, like, more of a nuisance, if anything. It's not like he beats up on the Brewers. He's just a nuisance to me at the end of the day. With the Cubs, he was a nuisance. And now with the Cardinals, it's just annoying. And like I said before, that whole situation, it doesn't have to be what it is. If you just, be a man for 5 seconds and just own up to your mistake. Just apologize to Caleb Durbin. Make sure he's okay. What if Caleb Durbin runs into him? And I know I'm talking the what ifs, right? And I told you guys earlier on my grind of my gears, not talk to what ifs. But what if Caleb Durbin gets hurt? What if he hurts, tears something? It's crazy. Crazier things have happened. What if he tears something? And your first reaction is to what? Make sure he's okay? No. First reaction is to first yell, Durbin's getting hot with you, so then you yell at Durbin. And then you yell at the dugout. That's your first reaction? Talk about a vet. That's not a vet. That's not a vet. I don't know what you would call that, but that's not a veteran. That's not a veteran move at all. That's a rookie, hothead, I need to get myself in check move. So yeah, that's where I'm at with Contreras. I hated that in every facet. It was more annoying than anything. Like I said, it was more of a nuisance than anything over the weekend. It's not like a brawl started out of it. And he responded with a home run. Great. Whatever. I don't care that he responded with a home run. He should have responded with walking out to the field and saying to Contreras, hey, make sure that your guy at third there is okay. Just something simple like that. Instead, and I love Contreras, is like, Contreras didn't like defend him at all. Said some guys had to beef with him, whatever. Like, I love that too, is Contreras. He's got his boys back. It's his brother. Like he said, it's his brother at the end of the day. But I got my guys back too. And the funny part would have been is if Contreras would have decided, I got to charge the mound, because then the guy who would have, your catcher steps in between. So the guy who would have had to step in between Contreras going out there after Quintana would have been his brother, telling him, hey, let's settle down. That could have been, I don't know. I'd have to look up that stat. Maybe I'll look up that stat at the break there. Has there ever been a fight between family members in an MLB baseball game? That'd be interesting. I'll look that up during the break. So we're going to hit a commercial break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to answer that question. Has there ever been a fight between family members at a baseball game? So we're going to, during a game. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to find that answer there. But if you have anything you want to talk about, Brewers, what you thought about the whole Wilson Contreras situation over the weekend there, anything like that, hit us up, 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. We're going to hit the break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about that. We got some Packer stuff coming up. We got all kinds of stuff coming up yet today here, so make sure you're coming back on the backside of this quick ad break. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, coming back on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment of the show here is brought to you by a great sponsor, and that is Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood, Wisconsin. Their expert traditional physical therapy and structural integration programming. Call for flexible scheduling and evaluations. Just call 715-267-4583. Trust Chad down there at Sport and Spine Clinic. If you've been injured, whether it was golfing, men's league softball, whatever you're doing, maybe you're pushing the lawnmower, maybe all this rain was happening, you forgot to put your rain gutter on, you ran out there. I just thought maybe I forgot to put my rain gutter on. I don't know. I'm going to have to check that after the show's down here. But anyways, maybe you forgot to put your rain gutter on, whatever. You hurt yourself, you felt something pop, whatever. You went to the doctor. He said, go see a physical therapist. Go see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood there. He'll get you right, doing whatever you're doing, feeling better than ever. Sport and Spine Clinic there of Greenwood. So we went to the break. We were talking about that Wilson Contreras situation over the weekend. And I'd love to hear what you guys got to say. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. Let me know what you're thinking there. I asked the question. I said, I didn't know if there'd been any other family members that have fought, because no family members fought, should I say. The question I had, and if you missed any part of the show so far, make sure you're listening back tomorrow, wherever you get podcasts out there, to search Wisconsin Sports on the Go Trade across all podcast platforms. But I asked the question, I was like, well, has there ever been, because the guy who would have had to step in front of Wilson Contreras to go out if he was going to charge him out would have been William Contreras, his brother. So has there ever been any family members to fight during a game? And I did a search. I didn't really know how to phrase it, right? But I did find out that there really hasn't been one in baseball, but there has been some in hockey. Eric Lindros and his brother, the Hayes brothers have been. So there's been some hockey ones where some hockey brothers have fought. So that one kind of makes sense. The whole hockey thing makes sense. Baseball would be hard. I mean, who would have fought? Like Ken Griffey and his dad? That'd been a rough fight there. I mean, there's been more duos than that. But I mean, there'd be some father-son duos that would have been a little odd, like throwing hands with your dad out there on the baseball field because of hit by pitch. But I mean, yeah. So that's all happened. So I just wanted to look that up. And yeah, so there's been NHL guys who have been in fights with their family members, but not in baseball, or I believe in any other sport, from as far as I can see. So we'll see. We'll see if one happens at some point. Maybe we can talk about it. But anyways, we were talking about that series there, and I kind of want to dive into that series that we watched, because the Brewers It was a homestand. It was a 5-5 homestand. I mean, you took 1 out of 3 from San Diego, which I really wish they would have been able to win and put up some runs in one of those games of that series. Goodness, 1-0 loss and a 2-0 loss there. Chad Patrick pitches fantastic for you. And then also you look at that same game there, and then next game out there, you end up losing. Zastrinsky pitched pretty well, but still got the loss 1-0 there. So, I mean, you had a couple games where it's like, goodness, close losses. Then the Braves blew you out twice. They blew you out twice. Those losses don't look great because the Braves, after that game with the Brewers, I mean, they went out to Rockies. They won 2, but they lost that last one 10-1. That's the last one I seen. There was a butt kick in there. And the Braves have been, I mean, kind of scuffling on the year there. So it's a good time to take advantage of them while they were scuffling, kind of getting their feet underneath of them with Ronald Acuna back. But I mean, they've been scuffling this year out of the gate. So that was a series where it felt like the Brewers should have it. They got the win of Quinn Priester, who's been nothing but fantastic. I want to talk about Quinn Priester later on here. But then, so you have that series with Braves. You kind of get blown out 2 games. They're 7-1 and 6-2 in game 1 and 3. You win the second game in there. And then you have the Cardinals. And it's like, okay, Cardinals coming to town. This is a battle for second in the division. It feels like a series where you can't afford to drop 3 games or 4. Like, you can't get swept. Really, you can't. It's home games. And you can't really afford it. You can maybe afford a split, but a series win would be huge. And that's what the Brewers did. And it's all started with Jacob Mizorowski in a fantastic debut with the Brewers there. He goes, I mean, just a strong performance all the way around. Mizorowski had there. And the Brewers get the win 6-0. You couldn't realistically ask for a better debut out of Mizorowski there. I mean, you look at the box score here, 5 innings. No hits, no earned runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. I mean, the pitch count wasn't bad for him there. It was simply because he had what would you call it? A Charlie horse, basically, or a cramp. He had a cramp, and they were like, let's not risk this thing. Let's get him out of here. He's been great. Let's get him out of here. So they pulled him out after 5. And then Nick Mears came in, then Ashby came in and shut the door. So a great game 1. The Brewers got all over the Cardinals there, 6-0. And then game 2 rolled around, won that one 3-2. Game 3, and this is where I've been looking across these different series, right? The San Diego series, and then Atlanta, and then you look at this St. Louis game, and it amplified again in that St. Louis game. They lose 8-5. And we're going to look back in this game, and we're going to say, well, the pitching staff gave up 8 runs. Yeah, they did. The bats left a lot of guys on base, too. A lot of times with the bases loaded. I mean, you look at this game, left 11 guys on base. The team with runners in scoring position was 2 for 12. Yelich was 0 for 2. Hoskins was 0 for 1. Contreras was 0 for 2. Turang was 0 for 1. Ortiz was 0 for 1. Frelick was 1 for 2. And Churio was 1 for 3. You want to look at what happened in this game here. You got the bases loaded. You had multiple guys in scoring position multiple times. And you had Yelich and Hoskins go 0 for the century in that game. 3 strikeouts for Yelich, 2 for Hoskins. You want to talk about what's not a productive at bat, striking out with the bases loaded, especially with less than 2 outs. Find a way to put a ball in play. Everybody hates on Sale, right? And Sale's been fantastic. Moved up to the leadoff spot here, and we're going to talk about that later in the show because I had a question on that, but I think Sale's going to stay right there. But you've talked about guys like Sal Frelick. Why is he so instrumental in the lineup? He finds a way to put the ball in play. I know sometimes it's not a hard hit. And sometimes it's just a little weak, little chopper. I'd rather have a weak little chopper with the chance than a strikeout. Then when I watch Churio go alter, and I'm like, I look at my wife and I tell her, he's going to swing at 3 straight breaking balls down and away. And what does he do? 3 straight breaking balls down and away. I think that was from Phil Matten there. He came in and threw some dirty pitches to him down and away there, and it was just take a hack. And then the one knock on Churio, you can get him swinging because he swings all over the zone. He's not much of a walker. He loves to swing around the zone there. Quintana got roughed up again. Quintana in this one here, he got roughed up. He's had a couple rough outings over this season here. And I mean, hopefully that kind of levels itself out there. He had that rough one. I think that was back in June there. He gave up 6. And then, I mean, since then he's been solid against the Phillies. He was solid, 5 innings of two-run baseball. And then San Diego, he was solid in the win, 5 innings of 1-run baseball. So he's been solid. He's been roughed up in some outings, but I mean, he's been consistent for the Brewers. It's just this Cardinals game. He got a little roughed up there, gave up the long ball a couple times there. So, I mean, that was it was just, I mean, that kind of day. That kind of day there. And this whole thing was all along this, I mean, the controversies and everything like that. So it's just that kind of day for the Brewers. But I just look at this series and I say, what did this tell me about the Brewers coming off it? Told me that there's a lot of fight in this team. And I watch that series and how it went for Milwaukee. It either tells you one of two things, right? It either tells me that the Cardinals are farther away than I thought, or the Brewers are missing maybe a piece or two here or there, but they have, I believe they have the pitching in place. After watching this series, I mean, your worst outing was Quintana in there, and I think Quintana's a solid, steady guy. Outside of that, Mizorowski's earned himself a second start because he's going to start game 2 against the Cubs there. And then Priester has been fantastic. He was fantastic in the finale there. Chad Patrick's been good for him. And then Peralta has been solid all the way through. So, I mean, you just look at what this starting pitching staff's been able to do and what the bullpen's been able to do as of late. And, I mean, it gives you a lot of good feelings heading into a series against the Cubs and the Twins coming up, because the Twins haven't been terrible this year, but the Cubs, they're riding high. They're riding first place right now in the NL Central, and the Brewers are chasing. So this is a series I feel like, and I had a question on this. It was about the Cubs series coming up. And it was, what was it? I saw it. I had the question asked to me, and then I saw it again across social media. And it was about the Brewers, this upcoming series. The Cubs series, to them, and what they had to say was, it was going to decide whether the Brewers were buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. This Cubs series on Tuesday, June 17th through Thursday, June 19th was going to decide if the Brewers were buyers or sellers. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that's a thought. I mean, there's a lot of ball to be played left before we get to the break there, before we get to the deadline. I've said all the way along, I think the Brewers should be toes in the water, but not jumping in. I don't want to sound like I'm a hater, right? Because that's the way you get labeled. Then is you're just a fair weather fan who only supports when they're winning, and that's when you go for the crazy stuff. If the Brewers were actually going to spend money, I'd be all in. I think, honestly, right now, the Brewers need to make a move because the Giants just got better. They got Rafael Devers. You weren't going to go get Devers. I hate people who are like, oh, well, the Giants did this. Why aren't the Brewers doing anything? They weren't going to go get Devers. Are you crazy? Do you see that contract? The Red Sox didn't even want that contract. They didn't want that contract the day after they signed it. But what I think the Brewers are lacking now is they got to make some kind of move themselves. I don't think you never were going to get Devers. Trust me. That wasn't going to happen. But Ryan McMahon's starting to hit better out there with the Rockies. Find a guy like that. Go make a move for a guy like that. He's been hitting a lot. I mean, over the last, I believe, a month, he's been hitting like 278. The average doesn't show it because he did have a struggle period, but for the last month, he's been fantastic. Bring in a guy like that. A little bit of power, get on base for you. You're missing power. That wouldn't be a bad move. Maybe call him and say, hey, do you want Rhys Hoskins? I mean, it's an option. You got guys like Andrew Vaughn down there coming into, are going to be in AAA when he gets there. I don't know if he's there yet or if he's even played a game yet with him down there. But you have guys down there who you could call. Bobby Dahlback's been down there for a while now. Bobby Dahlback's been hitting 266 down there in AAA, and I know some people don't like the averages when they're sitting at 266 because they should be hitting better when they're in the minors. But I mean, he's been solid this season. 284 across all of minor league baseball this season. I mean, Bobby Dolbeck, I know he's got the ability, I believe, to play third base too. So right now he's listed an outfielder, but he's got the ability to play some infield there. You have other guys down there, minors, who have been hitting well. I believe Ernesto Martinez, the first baseman, has been hitting 260, 6'6". He's huge. He's an exciting prospect to look at down there. I don't think Tyler Black, I know, is back. He hasn't really had a lot of games to talk about. I think 3 games. So he hasn't really had a lot to talk about yet. But, I mean, Tyler Black's down there. Eddie Rosario's down there. He's batting 290 down there, left fielder. So maybe we see a guy like Eddie Rosario come up at some point, the veteran down there. Freddie Zamora has been fantastic. This is a guy, I don't know. I don't know. Where are we at right? The question is, where are you at right now if you're a Brewer fan? Are you going all in or are you like half in? Because there's guys down there who like Anthony Siegler or Freddie Zamora, right? The shortstop and second baseman down there. Each one of them dang near batting, I believe both of them are around 300. One's batting 299 if you're Siegler and the other one's batting 295 if you're Zamora. They're hitting solid. So what I'm saying is that basically end of the day, I'm not a complete seller. Like, I'm not going out there and saying, who wants, Sal Frelick and who wants Bryce Terang? No way, no how, not a chance. But I'm going out there and saying, okay, this is going to happen. I believe it because the Brewers are a team that loves to trade guys who are right before an option year, right before an extension. Freddie Peralta, Brewers don't spend money. Sorry, they don't. So if there was a pitcher on the staff that I believe might be traded, Freddie Peralta would be my guess. So Freddie would be a possibility to be on the books. And then you're looking across. Hoskins could be another guy where you can see him getting moved down from here pretty soon. Jake Bowers, I've heard him in the rumblings a little bit there. I mean, I could see guys like that. That if somebody called about Yelich, I would definitely take the phone call. It's my Yelich. Don't take it personally, Yelich fans. He drives me crazy sometimes. But no, I mean, I look across and I'm like looking at all these, older veteran guys. Maybe think about it. Maybe if somebody does call about William Contreras and they give you a haul, because you have a guy in the minors by the name of Jefferson Cuero, a fantastic prospect, and he's hitting 273 since coming back, 8 games since coming back from injury there. And it's not like a huge sample size, don't get me wrong, but he's a darn good catcher. I remember it was 2 years ago or a year ago down there in spring training. I mean, I know it's spring training, but the arm that he has is fantastic. He's a good defensive catcher. And I mean, the bat's coming along with him. He's a top-rated prospect in your system. Maybe if somebody calls about William Contreras and they give you a pretty good haul for him back, maybe they give you a third baseman or whatever, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe thinking about it. Unless if you think maybe William Contreras could be a first baseman of the future. Like maybe that's where he would move over like his brother, but figure out how to get out of the baseline. Then I could see, maybe keeping a guy like William Contreras around. But right now, I just hate to block off the young talent because what's Jefferson Cuero to you if he's just going to sit down there? I think he's got all the potential in the world to be up here pretty darn soon. But, my question would be too with William Contreras would be he's hurt and we know about the finger. What's an injured list stint look like for him if he gets? Well, I don't know what the surgery span is or anything like that, but would the injuries, the IL stint actually help him? I don't know because right now it just doesn't seem like he's him. It doesn't seem like he's the same guy at this very moment, and it could be because of that injury. So it's just something to monitor there. But if to answer that question, long story short, there, as I was trying to hit the roundabout way around the barn there, I took 14 laps around the inside and I was supposed to be on the outside. To take that roundabout ways, I think they have guys down there in the minors who could have the potential to come up at some point here. And I would be okay if the Brewers, because I don't think you're giving up. If you still have the pitchers, you're not trading away the entire staff, right? You got Quinn Priester, you got Logan Henderson down there in the minors, you got Jacob Mizorowski. You're going to have guys bouncing around. Woody's going to come back eventually, right? Knock on wood. He's going to be here eventually. You're going to have those guys coming in there. It's just the Freddie Peraltas of the world, the Rhys Hoskins of the world, you're not going to sign them back if you don't realistically, this is where you need to have the gut check. Do you realistically think you can win the World Series this year? If you don't realistically think you can win the World Series this year, unless you make some drastic moves, which we know the Brewers will probably not do, unless they're planning on making those drastic moves, like going all in, like I believe they did in like 2018 when they went all in. They got guys like Moose and they got guys, in that grouping. I look at this and I say, I'm okay with moving on from guys. So am I a buyer or a seller at the deadline if this series goes one way or another? If they win the series or if they lose the series, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, I am in a, we'll take phone calls. I'll take phone calls on Freddie. I'll take phone calls on a lot of these guys. See what they want for him. I'm in that boat right now, no matter what. That's where I'm at. Because I don't know if it's a compete year or not. But we'll talk about that more later. I want to talk about that more later. I want to hear what you guys got to say. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. I'd love to hear what you guys got to say about that. Are the Brewers coming off that Cubs series? Do you believe, win or lose, that they're a buyer or a seller when it's all said and done there? If they win the series or if they lose the series, does that dictate whether they are a buyer or seller? Or are you in a different boat like I am where you're kind of in that boat of moving on from guys regardless of what happens? Let me know what you think there. 715-990-4914. So when we come back, I want to hit a little bit more into some of the news off the weekend there. I want to talk about that Jair situation, what we saw there, the comments from his dad coming off the weekends there. I want to talk about that. So I want to get into that when we come back here from the break. We got a little bit more here. We're going to wrap up the hour. We're going to come back after the hour there, and then we're going to talk to Kyle about the NBA Finals. We're going to talk to Umar a little bit later here about the Packers, about this situation and everything else that we got to talk about the Packers. So we're going to get into all of it here as the show goes on tonight. So we'll be right back here. We're going to wrap up the hour when we come back from the break here. This is Wisconsin Sports on the Go Trade. We'll be right back. Welcome back in as we wrap up this first hour of Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're back here on this Wednesday, and I know I said we're going to talk about the Jair situation, but we're just about to the top of the hour here, so I don't want to get too crazy right now here. But this next segment of the show here is brought to you by Marshfield Motor Speedway, the half-mile paved track, just 3 miles west of Marshfield on County Road H. Find upcoming events and races at marshfieldspeedway.com. That is marshfieldspeedway.com. Make sure if you follow Facebook, or you can, like I said, look them up, marshfieldspeedway.com there. You get all the updates, everything like that. We try to keep up to date on our Facebook page too, Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. If you want to find us across social media, make sure you're doing it on Twitter, on TikTok, on Facebook, YouTube, all across the podcast platforms. If you want to hear the show next day, make sure you're doing it. Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Like, follow, subscribe. We'd love to have you like, follow, subscribe, because it lets us know that you're out there, that we got people out there who are following along with the show, because that is what we're here for, is just, 2 hours of, I don't know what you'd call this, chaos. 2 hours of chaotic entertainment. That's what we're going for. Chaotic entertainment there. So when we come back, we're going to get to the top of the hour here, and we're going to get to Umar. Umar's going to come out. We're going to talk Packers here, because we want to talk about this Jair situation. His dad coming out basically saying, the contract proposal that they had for his son in 2025 included no guaranteed money. And I want to get Umar's take on that when I hear your guys' take on that. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, why would you sign a contract if there's no guaranteed money and everything like that? And I get it. I understand, and this is where I'm at with it. I understand both sides of the coin here. I understand the people that say, well, why would you want to play for a with no guaranteed money? I understand where Jair's coming from. Why would you want to play for no guaranteed money? But at the same time, why would you want to guarantee a guy money who's 7 to 8 games? I ain't guarantee you 15 to 18 mil for playing, 7 to 8 games. Just, it baffles me that, Landis Alexander's his name. He said he'd been foolish to take. It'd be foolish for the Packers to go into this and say, well, we want to restructure your deal, but all of it's going to be incentive-based, or it's not going to be incentive-based. We're going to guarantee you this money. Why? Why would you guarantee anything over what you've seen over the past couple of years? You're not going to guarantee nothing. If you're the Packers, if you're Jair, you're looking for guaranteed money, because you're sitting there like, oh, well, I've been injured how many times now? I want to make sure that I'm safe. The thing with it is that it's been a week now. Almost, right? It's been a while. I think it's been a week. Jair's still out there as a free agent. Now, is he just letting the landscape settle? Maybe. But I haven't heard that he's met with teams. Nothing like that. What's the market look like? I heard that teams were just lining up at the door for when the Packers would release him finally. I think, honestly, all that this was all this restructure conversation was a last ditch effort for the Packers to basically get people to say, what do you want for him? Quickly. Like, what do you want for him? Nobody bid. So it was just, if he takes it, he takes it. If he walks away, he walks away. They were half in the door, half out. They were fine either way. Now, it does make you question, and this is where I want to get with Ummer when we talk to him a little bit later. It does really make you question the Packers' motives down the road here. What's their motive? And a big question, and this is one that I heard, I believe it was over on Locked On Packers there. I was listening to Peter Bukowski over there. And he basically said it. Does it feel like Goody may not be making these moves because he doesn't feel like the Packers are close? And I want to talk about that because I heard him say that, and I was like, it's interesting. I wonder what we can stir up in a conversation with that. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about NBA Finals. I want to talk about everything when we come back here. So we are just getting to the top of the hour. We have a whole nother hour coming up here. Kyle's going to stop by. We're going to talk NBA Finals. We're going to talk more NBA as we got the drafts around the corner, too. We're going to talk Packers later on with Ummer. We got more Brewer talk to get to tonight here. We got all kinds of stuff. So make sure you're coming back. Wisconsin Sports on the Go Trade is back for another hour right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment, we got Ummer on now. We're going to talk a little Packers. We talked a little bit about the Jair situation going into the hour break. And I want to talk a little bit more about it here. I got Ummer here. We're going to talk about it tonight. But this next segment of the show here is brought to you by Foreman's Hardware. They offer you everything from home essentials to farm supplies, house to farm, grills to drills. Foreman's Hardware has got you covered. Visit today in Loyal, Colby, or Medford, Wisconsin there. Tell them Trade sent you. Get 5% off. Nothing better, 5% off on all your purchases. Just tell them I sent you down there. So I got Ummer with me tonight here. Ummer, how we doing? It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week again. We're feeling good, I hope, right? How's it going out there?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. Took off today and tomorrow. I'm going to spend some time with the wife and kids up in Great Wolf Lodge near me. So looking forward to that. And we're, kind of just going to take our time, enjoy these next 2 days off, and then get back into the grind on Friday. So, having Thursday off, for Juneteenth and stuff like that is pretty cool, but it just sucks because it's in the middle of the week. So, go just,
That's weird. That's
weird. Get through the week.
You got to just take Friday off. Like
I thought about it.
That is odd. You might be that must be the most oddest vacation I've ever heard in my life was taking off Wednesday and Thursday. Oh, I'll see you on Friday, boys. And I'd be like, why are you coming back on Friday?
Yeah. Why? But for real, I moved all my meetings from Wednesday and Thursday to Friday. So I'm like, all right, well, I just need to just plan it up. And I told some folks to take off. I was like, just enjoy the long weekend, right? So yeah, just crazy times at work right now. So
he's a dedicated man. That's what we're getting out of this. Ummer is a dedicated man, and that's all we need to know. So goodness, we have a lot to talk. We don't have a lot to talk about. We're waiting for training camp and everything. OTA. We're waiting for everything to happen, right?
Right.
But there's always stuff to talk about. It seems like with Jair, he's in the news with the Packers over this last week. So I want to talk about that a little bit because we did hear Landis Alexander come out and talk. I didn't know his dad's name was Landis, but yeah, Landis Alexander. And he basically said, the Packers, and we were kind of wondering the whole time, well, what was the contract proposal, right? We had no idea. Well, Landis kind of broke the ice for us. He let us know what happened. Yeah. Basically, no guaranteed money. And I said, honestly, thinking about it, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because what did you want guaranteed? And I get, Alexander wants to guarantee his future and everything like that. Okay, go out there and prove it this year. Go out and prove it 1 year, and then go get your big contract after this year. Because the Packers only wanted you for one more. It wasn't like they're signing you long-term with no guaranteed money. It was this year and then done. Out the door. I really think, and my opinion was going to the break, was this was a last-ditch effort for the Packers to say, hey, other teams out there, we're trying to sign them back. Do you want them yet? It was one last-ditch effort to say that. And then after that, they were like, okay, do you want the deal? No? Okay, bye. It was basically one last, here you go. And if you don't want it, I'm sorry, but see you later. We can't guarantee you money. And it's so hard to guarantee a guy even $7 to $8 million for 7 games. Like, what are you going to pay him $1 million a game? Like, is that how it's all going to figure out? Like, he's been a consistent 7 to 8 game guy over the past couple of years. If he was 14 1 year and then 7, okay, it's a different story. We're talking about an instrumental position where the Packers, they don't want to pay all that money. They can use that money elsewhere now. Who knows what they're going to do with it? We'll wait and see on that. But I mean, Ummer, what are your thoughts on what the contract was, what the contract they offered was? I mean, I don't have a problem with it from Gutekunst's end. I can see where Jair was upset with it. Where they were upset was like no guarantee money. They think they're worth more. I get that. But at the same time, you got to look at it from the business standpoint of you haven't been reliable. That's kind of where we're at right now. So what were your thoughts coming off hearing this news from Landis and everything like that, and what the contract proposal was that we were waiting to hear?
I mean, when it comes down to it, reminds me a lot of what they did to Jordy. Like on his last year, they basically offered him the vet minimum, and they basically just showing him the door. And I think with Jair, they're doing the same thing. I don't think they had any intention of re-signing him. I don't think they wanted to. I didn't think they want to deal with the headache or him healthy, not healthy, things like that. I think the most upsetting thing for me as a fan, which I think a lot of folks saw on my Twitter, was the fact that if you knew this was going to be a decision, you knew you're going to do this, there was no point in playing the games. You should have just done the post-cut, June 1st cut. You should have just called it a day. You should have drafted with Trey Amos in mind, or maybe last year taking some guys in the draft when we had 2 drafts that are very heavily focused on defensive backs. I feel it looks very haphazardly done because it's like, all right, you wait till literally the 11th hour to say, all right, we're going to offer you this contract that really isn't really anything. And then you're basically going to push him out anyways. And like I said, they did the same thing with Jordy. They offered him vet minimum. He was going to take it. And then until Rodgers and James Jones told him, hey, man, you need to go somewhere else and get your money's worth. And so Jair's probably doing the same thing too. Now, the fact he hasn't signed with anybody, I think he's just kind of weighing out his options. I do remember on Tuesday TV, Nagler was talking about how, they're waiting. He could be waiting till training camp because it's better to go to a team that has a need instead of just going to any team that's offering you anything because you don't know what they're going to do. Again, we know that he was probably being told that he has to play for free or probably close to a vet minimum and no guarantees and stuff like that. I feel like, again, from a Gutekunst perspective, a little disingenuous. It's like, look, you could have given him a contract that was incentive-based. There was some talk that might have been the case. And at the day, it just reminds me too much of Jordy, and I was still hurt by that. I felt like in that year in 2018 when we were out there with Jimmy Graham instead of Jordy, I think we could have probably made another run because I thought Jordy and Rodgers still had that connection. And Adams wasn't going to go away because of that, right? And in this case, yeah, Jair, availability is the best ability. Wasn't really available. Maybe they were done with all just the whole picture of it, right? When it comes to the whole cap, making himself a captain and having issues with the training camp, having issues with his injuries, having issues with just certain personality things. End of the day, it's done and over with. I saw Lamar Jackson spoke today, and he was talking about bringing him in, and that he says he talked to Eric DeCosta and said, go get Jair, go get him. I think that would be the best thing. He gets out of the conference completely. We'll still see him at the end of the year, and he gets to go play with a Super Bowl contender and his best friend from college, right? So I think that would be good. But again, if you knew this was the direction you were going to go, which it seems like they did, then I feel like the way they've drafted the last 2 years just doesn't make any sense to me because, you did pick up Nate Hobbs, you got, Kalen King and Michael Robinson and, there's some, you've picked up certain players, but at the end of the day, like, are you really banking on the kind of jumps from, Keyshawn and Valentine and, hoping that, Bullard can lock down a role in the slot possibly. I just, what I'm saying, it's a lot of questions there right now. But again, that's the decision they made. We have to live with it. I just didn't really agree with the process that they use.
That leads me into my question for you for the day. That leads me right into it because I was listening over on Locked On Packers, Peter Bukowski, and sometimes I listen to Peter and it's like, Peter, settle down. And then sometimes I listen to Peter and Peter's like, he does. And sometimes he goes way too deep in the analytics. He's like, well, this is this and this. And I'm like, Peter, I don't need to know all those analytics right now. All I know is that they're stinking. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know why they're stinking. But anyways, so Peter, I thought he had a pretty good take, and this leads right into what you're saying. And I want to talk about it here. The way that this all went down, sloppy. Then, and what you're saying there, it's kind of like a sloppy. It didn't seem like they were really, why didn't we go out and add pieces? Why didn't we go after guys in the draft? What was, the reasoning and everything like that? And was it that he had faith in the guys in the room? Gutekunst had faith in these guys in the room. I don't know. But does it kind of feel like Goody, is it that he doesn't, because I heard this question from Goody. It's like what Peter said was, do you feel like the Goody believes the Packers aren't that close? Mm-hmm. Because if you felt like you were close, right? Because if I feel like I'm close, if I say I'm watching the Brewers right now, say I'm the GM of the Brewers, Matt Arnold, and I know the Brewers don't spend money, but this is how it should probably happen, right?
Right.
If you feel like you're close, you get to the trade deadline, you're going to add a piece or two, right? You're going to add big pieces. Whatever it is, maybe a big bat, maybe you're going to add some bullpen relief, maybe both, right? Maybe you need both. You're going to add both. Football, maybe you're going to add a depth piece in the secondary. You're going to add a big time pass rusher, or you're going to add whatever it is, right? Gutekunst hasn't. And if you're sitting there with the cap space that you have, and I understand you want to extend, extensions and everything like that. I get that. You want to extend guys. I understand all that. But you're in a pretty good spot right now, and you aren't even in the rumblings. You haven't been in the rumblings. The rumblings, but not the rumblings, right? You get in the Giannis rumblings where you got ESPN telling you that he's going 1,500 places, and then Giannis goes out and says, what is Shams talking about right now?
Yeah,
Does anybody else
exactly.
disclose? It's like the Packers are in these rumblings, but at the same time, they're not getting anybody. They're always there. They're always in the talks, right? The Brewers, same with the Brewers. I can compare it to the Brewers all the time. They're always in the talks. Oh, we were in the conversation for this guy. We just didn't get him. So does it feel, and I want to know from you, does it feel like maybe Goody's like, this is as close as we are, and if the guys in the room make it work, they make it work, and if they don't, well, you can't blame me for going, grabbing all these pieces because, well, it didn't work out because the guys here. I mean, where are you kind of at with that? I could see it from both ways where Goody's like, I don't know if we're that close yet, right? We have too many young pieces or too many pieces that aren't there yet. Or is it, well, I trust the guys. Where are you thinking right now?
I think there was some credence to that if we were like a 6 and 12 team, or if we were a losing team, or we hadn't made the playoffs the last 2 years. We didn't, last year we won our wild card game. We got to divisional. We were literally maybe probably a field goal away from going to the NFC Championship game, right? And last year, if anything, injuries is what really did us in. I feel like when you are a Green Bay Packer front office guy, when you're a fan, when you're a player, you're not talking about division titles. You're not talking about, NFC Championship appearances. You're talking about Super Bowls. You're talking about championships, right? And I feel like if Goody is having any kind of thoughts like that, then he's the wrong man for the job. I know that's a little hyperbolic, but my thing is like the reason why we as fans get upset because you do see other teams that make certain moves to kind of take you over that step, that hump, right? Yeah. And, the Packers have built very good teams in their whole existence. Like there's no denying that. But the fact is that we've had a drought now since 2010. And that 2010 team was pretty good, but it wasn't like it was by any means people thought it was considered to be ready. Right. Like we had 15 players in IR. We literally had the bottom of the roster playing a lot, and guys that, Brandon Chiller and freaking Howard Green and other guys that just came in off the street and were able to produce and help us get to the Super Bowl. Right. And my question is, as a GM, if you're already thinking that your team isn't there and here we are in June, then what have you been doing? What have you been doing with your drafts and your pickups? And I understand we have cap money and you want to sign your own guys, which is fine. I get that. But on the same hand, too, though, going all in is the way the Saints got into the cap, heck that they've been in, right? And that they're never really going to get out of it for probably next 5-10 years. They're going to be in there forever. I don't want us to do stuff like that. But there are certain things that they could do. I feel like like that year when they went and just snuck in and got Julius Peppers. And it was just something that no one expected to happen. And it just happened. And honestly, when he was there, we had 2 teams, literally had 3 teams that could have went to the Super Bowl. That all his whole time in Green Bay, we could have had a team. Each one of those teams could have went to the Super Bowl. And so me personally, when I see his inaction in certain areas, when I see him not investing in certain positions that we as fans or everybody else can see that he probably should, it does make you kind of question, right? And then now with a new guy and a new sheriff in town with that policy, you have now a guy who probably didn't have any buy-in on the floor, didn't have any buy-in on Goody. And, he's been with the organization since 2012, right? So he's seen the Packers kind of go, and he comes from a pedigree of his father basically being in charge of the San Francisco 49ers when they won 5 Super Bowls. So he might have a short leash. He even said that he doesn't want any lame duck years. He doesn't want to have these guys go into the final year of their contracts having to worry about job security. So basically he's telling them, hey, look, if you guys get the job done this year, then you're going to get extended. And if not, then I really don't know what's going to happen. And I think that, that whole sense of urgency that Gutekunst said last year, or maybe the end of this year, right, when the end of the season or whatever, that might be a little bit more for him than we really think, because right now if you're going to go into the season with the defensive line the way it is and with the secondary the way it is, it's a little concerning because on offense, you do see competition up and down literally that roster on that side, except quarterback, everybody else.
Yep.
And I mean, even then, you're looking at the Taylor Ixma guy and you're looking at Malik Willis. And Sean, whatever, Clifford, they're all battling for position number 3. But the truth is, like, if you go up and down, everyone has to be fighting for a position. I mean, you got Mecole Hardman coming out there making plays, and we didn't think he was going to make the team. So I think that there might be some credence to what Bukowski's saying, but at the end of the day, like, if you aren't preparing to try to go to the Super Bowl every single year, then you are definitely the wrong person for the job. Hands down, we're not here building good teams to be division winners and to make the playoffs and get knocked out. No, we're here to get championships. That's what we're known for. The Lombardi is named after our head coach. Like, I'm sorry, like there's no excuses for that. Like, if that's the case, then he might be out next year. Then
the thing that worries me with Gutekunst is that I feel like he always tries to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yes,
that's it. I mean, we're going into the season, like you said, and that's where I can kind of see what Peter's saying there with his comment is you look at him going into this season and you have a defensive line like you do. You let Jair basically walk away and you have what's your plan in the secondary? I have no idea. What's Bullard going to do? What's your plan out there? Is Kalen King, he's in a cast. Like, who's going to be your guys at this point? I have no idea. And, if you're expecting Keyshawn Nixon's going to be cornerback 1, okay, but you better have a good defensive line then. And you better pray that Lucas Van Ness is going to step up and Kenny Clark's going to come back and Rashawn Gary is going to be a dude again. I mean, it's a lot of like, I hope that this happens. And that's my worry with Gutekunst is that I feel like you're not making those moves, right? When you went out and got a guy like Smith, or you got a guy, you had Za'Darius, you got Preston, you had 2 pretty good pass rushers. Then you went out and got Julius Peppers. Rasul Douglas is sitting out there right now.
I mean, I understand he had a bad year, but I bring him in. Why not? Like,
why not? An experienced guy.
He blossomed under Joe Barry. That's fine. But you tell me Hafley can't do something with him? Like, I don't know. It's just using Bo Melton as a cornerback, which I think he probably can do. But again, it's like, sometimes you're kind of thinking like, what are we doing right now? Like, it just seems like we're
overthinking simple.
Yeah.
We're overthinking simple. You have cap room to bring in Rasul Douglas. Like, it's not like he's going to demand the farm from you next season. It's you got the money for a guy like that. You have a money for these not huge pass rushers that you could bring in for just depth pieces when, hey, maybe Lucas Van Ness doesn't work out. I can put somebody in there. But it seems like you're at this point right now where you're like, okay, I got to see if my draft picks work, because if they don't, well, I just wasted how many years?
I mean, you see what they were doing about Josh Myers. We talk about that all the time, where every single year they're blowing smoke up, our tailpipe, telling us, oh, hey, man, he's going to get better. He's going to get better. Well, guess what? He never did. Now he's literally a second or third string center in the Jets right now. Right. Yep. He's not even starting over there. He can't even beat Tippmann out. So, I mean, my question is like these GMs, that's one thing I did appreciate about Ron Wolf, because when he realized he made a crappy pick, he didn't waste time. He cut that and kept it moving. Gutekunst does not like admitting that he made mistakes. No GM does. I get that. But you're going to keep a roster spot because of the fact you drafted someone in the first round or second round, knowing that they're not really living up to that pedigree and they're making your team worse, not better. Like the whole Jair thing is, we're maybe getting addition by subtraction because the fact that he hasn't played a full season in 3 years. Okay, fine. Or 2 years. Okay. All right. But what's your corresponding move? Nate Hobbs? Okay. Well, he has a hard time staying healthy too. So then, okay, Keyshawn, who was an undrafted free agent, who's definitely basically gone the Sam Shields and the Tramon Williams route of like just being this guy who was like, basically not even drafted to now he's a starting corner. And I think that's great. But again, what was the thing you just said? If you're going to have a guys like that out there, I don't care if you have Darrelle Revis and you have, Doug Evans out there, Craig Newsome. I don't care who it is out there. Your front 7 has to get pressure. Your front 7 has to apply a blitz and be able to disrupt the quarterbacks. If not, the secondary is going to be out there all day running. I remember I was watching highlights of Caleb Williams in that last game against us. And yeah, we were getting pressure with Devontae Wyatt, but he was able to run out and eventually make, completions. And I'm sorry, but quarterbacks are going to be able to do that if you can't get pressure with 4 or generate any kind of pass rush. And right now, I'm not very confident in that. I think us banking on Covington making that big of a change, I mean, I'm hoping that's the case, but I'm not holding my breath.
It's like looking at it right now. My biggest question would be for the secondary: who's your boundary corners?
Yeah, I don't have
I
any
have
idea.
no idea. I have
Even
no
Keyshawn
idea.
is like up there, right? Like he's supposed to be quarterback one, but
I don't trust that. Are you gonna throw Keyshawn out there on AJ Brown and hope that he shuts him down for a game?
come
I
on.
That ain't happening. It's just
No.
I don't think that there's honestly. Is there a guy? I'm looking at some of the top wide receivers, and you look at the schedule and some of the matchups that they're going to have, and I'm looking at the guys that they're
They
going to
don't
be
look
facing. It's
pretty.
like, who's
They
going to be
don't.
the boundary corners in those
Yeah.
games? It's going to be a shutdown. Is it Valentine? Is Valentine going to be a guy? I have no idea. It's like
Yeah.
there's so many question marks and so much I hope, and you're getting no if. And that's where I'm coming back to. Like, I thought about this point, and I'm like, maybe he's right. Is that if Gudikins felt like we were that close, wouldn't he say to himself, I don't feel like we have a boundary corner at the moment right
Yeah.
now. Maybe I go out and get a dog. Maybe I go and get a guy. Right now, I'm hoping that a bunch of rookies and a bunch of second-year guys figure it out. And that's a whole bunch of hope and pray and everything like that. But like you're saying, and like I'm saying, with this offense, when you got an offense that looks like it's going to be flowing like this, you're going to be the Bengals.
I mean, yeah, you're basically trying to outscore everybody. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard. I mean, they're not going to be the Bengals. Their defense will be fine.
No,
I'm not saying that they're going to be
their
like
defense was terrible last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're going to be terrible like the Bengals were last year.
More than that, right?
Yeah, they're going to be a little bit. They're going to be a bend but don't break. But do you have a shutdown defense that when you get against a team like the Eagles or something like that, can you hold them?
Yeah.
Can you get a stop? And that's a question because you have guys like Quay Walker, who's a question mark. Devontae Wyatt, who's a question mark. What does Rashawn Gary give you? Lucas Van Ness, he's got a mental block. Is he going to get over that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you got so many question marks up and down this defense, and it's like I like these guys. I like some of the guys they have. I mean, Edgerrin Cooper's like, if you looked at the defense right now, it's like, who do you like?
Yeah.
Edgerrin Cooper. I like Edgerrin Cooper. I like Xavier McKinney. I like Evan Williams, but sometimes he gets torched. I like Javian Bullard, but he gets torched. I like Keyshawn Nixon. He's a hard hitter, but he gets torched. It's like Quay Walker. I like him in pass coverage, but outside of that, sometimes he's just non-factor. I'm looking across and it's like, who do you trust on your defense? And then maybe there's 2 or 3 guys right now where I'm like, maybe only 2 where I'm like, those guys I got, right? Isaiah McDuffie is a guy who's in the right spot.
Yeah, he's like he's a try hard guy, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
he's a special teams.
He's just,
dude.
I mean, I don't know. He's a special teams guy who's just a right spot guy, but he's not a big play guy. He's just a solid dude, a solid depth piece. But if you're trusting him to be that guy, we're not there. So I don't know. I can see what Peter's saying. I don't think the defense is just going to completely suck. But when I look at this and I look at what Goody's telling me, it's like, if I'm Ed Policy, because we saw what he had to say, and I want to talk. Do you have time for a little bit of another segment here? Do you have time for a little bit of another segment? Okay. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Ed Policy comments because I want to get into that because Ed Policy said he's not going to meddle in the football stuff, but I think he's going to meddle in the football stuff here because I think with what we're seeing right now, Gudikins, if he puts all of his cards, he's putting all his chips on the table right now with his roster. And if it all blows up in his face, I mean, like you said, and like everybody knows, Ed Policy had nothing to do with the hiring of Brian Gudikins or Matt LaFleur. So what would Ed Policy do? I don't know. We'll come back. We're going to hit a quick break. We're going to come back. Umber's going to stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more Packers because I want to get to those comments there from Ed Policy a little bit here. So we'll be right back here after this quick commercial break on Wisconsin Sports. Welcome back into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, back on this Wednesday. And hey, this next segment of the show here is brought to you by our friends down there at Marshfield Motor Speedway, the half-mile paved track just 3 miles west of Marshfield on County Road H. You don't want to miss the summer, fall, whatever, it runs into the fall a little bit, all that fun down there at the racetrack. Find the full schedule, the upcoming events and races at marshfieldspeedway.com or on the Facebook page. Search them up, Marshfield Speedway. Also, find our Facebook page, Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. You can find us there, and then you can, we always share out the stuff there. So it's all over the place. You can find out what's going on down there at the racetrack. If you want to text into the show here, get on here and let Umber know before he gets out of here for the day what you're thinking. Make sure you're doing it. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. We'd love to hear what you have to say tonight on this beautiful Wednesday here in the great state of Wisconsin. We've had too much rain over the past couple of days here, but hopefully that goes away here as the weekend approaches. It's supposed to get hot. So it's getting hot, and we got some hot news, right? Ed Policy's coming in. We saw Mark Murphy. He kind of did that little send-off there with the team, broke them down last time, 1, 2, 3 Super Bowl, and, he's out the door anyway. So it's like, okay, bye. But anyways, Ed Policy, he was on doing some interviews there, and I mean, what'd you have to think about some of the comments that Ed Policy was making? And I believe he was on Fox 11, the news station there, and then he had another interview there. What were some of your thoughts about some of the comments that he had in those interviews?
I mean, you could tell he definitely had a lot of high praise for Gutekunst and for LaFleur. He thinks he's doing a great job. He's very appreciative of the success that they have actually brought together as being GM head coach. He also was talking about how his three main goals is to have successful winning teams, keeping the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, and still even doing more within the community, strengthening the community and Packer Nation, kind of putting this together, more advancements to Titletown, adding to that, and just making sure that the community has more, just strengthening that bond between the Packers and the community. So I think he has his head in the right track. I do know, but after he said those things, he kind of got more generalistic about the way he was commenting on things. Every single beat writer has spoken on this, but to kind of summarize it, basically he was talking about how he doesn't like having coaches and his front office people in lame duck years, meaning that he doesn't want to have them wait until the last year of their deal to decide if they're going to keep them or not. So he wants to get extensions done in advance. And both Gutekunst and LaFleur did sign extensions, and they have 2 years left on their extension. So I feel like without him directly saying it, he's basically saying, hey, you guys aren't going to be lame duck guys. If you guys do a great year this year, then you're probably going to get extended again, right? Now, but the definition of that is what? Does that mean, an NFC championship game appearance? Does that mean a Super Bowl appearance? Does it mean a Super Bowl win? What does it mean? And you and me both can agree that last year was extremely disjointed Green Bay Packers. There was no consistency. There was no, basically from week to week, you didn't really know what you're going to get. And unfortunately, you can chalk up to injuries. You can chalk up to so many different things. I think him coming in, him having the pedigree that he has, him being with the organization for over 13 years, and then his father being such a real big deal when he was in the San Francisco 49ers and the Browns, I feel like it's one of those things where, he's probably going to have a short leash. But on the same hand, too, how is his involvement going to change? Because right now, the way it was working was back in the day with Bob Harlan, you had Harlan at the top as the president, and then you had the GM like Ted Thompson, who basically just had all control over football operations, right? And then you had the head coach that reported to the GM. And then Murphy recently, after all the silos and all the craziness that gone on with Ted Thompson in his final years with him being sick and things like that, they basically made it to where the coach, the GM, and the VP, Ross, what's my man's name? Bill. No, what's the VP of finance?
Oh goodness, name's slipping me. It's something, isn't it?
Russ Ball.
Anyways, yeah.
Russ Ball basically all now report up to the president. So the question is, Ed Paul is going to keep that same structure. That was a structure that kind of got made fun of a lot because it got a triangle kind of thing, right? Or is he going to go back to the original structure? I'm kind of hoping he goes back to the original structure. He did say that he's going to try to start attending more practices and get more involved in the football aspect of things. But really his primary focus is just basically working on the outside and letting the football people handle football things. Again, that's what he said with Rock. That's what he said with Dominic Yates. I kind of do want to see over these next 6 months how much that changes. And it'll be interesting. Like I said, as a new sheriff in town, Ed is not a new guy. He's been with the organization forever now. So it's like he knows how 1265 and how the Packers work. Question is everybody kind of wants, sometimes people, if it's not broken, they don't fix it, which I think is a good thing, right? Or they want to put their own spin on things. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of spin that is, right? Because private equity is really lately been making a big push in the NFL, buying up teams, buying up shares and things like that, where you kind of wonder, it's a fight that the Packers are going to keep fighting to make sure that they're one team that isn't owned by anybody except by the fans.
Yep. No, and the hard part is going to be how involved do you want to see them? That's a big question I have.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
involved do you want to see them?
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want him to go full Jerry Jones on us here and just go completely ballistic and I run the team now, everything. Right? I want to go Jerry Jones style on it. But I would be okay if he was a little more involved, not just in the, right now he's talking about, we're going to add, some developments, right? We're going to add office spaces and retail and entertainment and everything. And I want him to be involved in that because I want to see, the experience get better. And that's what attracts like the draft coming to Green Bay and the huge draft experience that they had. And I think you have to have all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't want him to be in this spot where he's like, oh, Gutekunst, he knows what he's doing. And then you just keep going through these lame duck years, right? He said it point blank, I don't want lame duck years. And like you said, what does that look like? And honestly, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, you got to get at some point, Matt LaFleur has got to take a team past the NFC Championship. He's been there. How many times? If Jordan Love's your guy, you got to find a way to get him past that.
Yeah,
you can't. I mean, you're title town. You are the Packers. You're not the Bears. You're not the Vikings. You're not the Cowboys. You're the Packers. You're technically, according to most Americans who aren't, major sport. The Cowboys are America's team according to major sport. According to everybody else, it's the Packers, right? The Packers are. When you think about football, when you're in a foreign land, you think about football. You're thinking Packers. Right? You don't think Cowboys unless they push that on you. But either way, if I'm at policy, I love that, going to practices, seeing how it's ran, because he's been in the organization. Maybe he doesn't know all about football, but he understands it enough. And he's got enough contacts out there where he can call up a guy, say anybody, I don't know, who, what's his name from New England Patriots for years there, Robert Kraft, right?
Yeah.
He did a pretty good job building up a pretty good organization, winning championships, everything like that. Call him up, say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about the way it's going right now? Do we have does my GM have too much faith in these guys that he's drafting that maybe I should be like, hey, figure it out, or maybe go out and spend some money? That's the thing, is like right now we have Gutekunst and we have Matt LaFleur making these decisions right now. Yeah. Words are tough tonight. You had some trouble with words. I'm having
that's it.
Words are tough. But you have Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur making these decisions. I mean, have a guy like Ed Policy in there, a third opinion, right? Because at this very moment, are we sitting here like, oh, I think Gutekunst has made all the moves that we wish he would have? No, not at all. I mean, we're saying Rasul Douglas. I mean, I've heard people say Jalen Ramsey, and at this point, I wouldn't even hate Jalen Ramsey, because then it would at least look like we're doing something. Right now, it looks like we're sitting stagnant, and we're just hoping that it works. And I hate hoping. Trust me. If you know me, I love the Brewers and I love the Badgers, right? And the Brewers are a team that hopes and prays more than anybody. This guy hit 120 last year, but 5 years ago he hit 250 with 40 bombs. So hopefully he starts doing it again. We're playing this hope and pray game right now, and I hate that. The Eagles aren't hoping and praying. They got a darn good roster.
Yep.
You look across the league, the Chiefs. The Chiefs find ways every single year. San Francisco's adding. The Rams are getting good. I mean, the Lions, they lost coaches, but they didn't lose pieces. They're adding pieces. The Vikings added pieces on that defense. The Bears added pieces on the offensive line. I'm not saying all those teams are going to figure it out, and they still got J.J. McCarthy running quarterback, but they all added pieces, and they all got better. And that's where I'm like, did we get better over the offseason? Did the Green Bay Packers get better? It depends who you ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did they get young guys who you think could develop into pretty good weapons? Yes. Do I trust that the guys they got for the defense are going to take the defense over the top?
No.
If we're believing in that, we're crazy. And if that's what Gutekunst is banking on, that's where I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, are you Ed Policy right now? If you're say you're Ed Policy.
Yeah.
Gutekunst tells you going into the season, we don't need to spend any more cap money, man. I trust my guys. These guys I drafted, Van Ness's of the world, everything like that. Covington's telling me they're good. Halfley's like, let's go get them, boys. He likes them, so let's do it, right? If you're Ed Policy and you watch this defense where it's like they can't get a pass rush, maybe they finish top 10 in all these statistical categories that everybody's going to tell me about again. But it's still not. You got to have top 10, but you got to look like the Green Bay Packers of 2010, because that defense was whipping, right? This defense. You put a defense from last year, they're like, oh, it's top 10 and this, and this. But you put that into comparison from what we've seen from Charles Woodson, Clay Matthews, and the boys back in 2010, not even in the same ballpark of what we saw back then. You had game wreckers. B.J. Raji was on that defensive line. Where's your B.J. Raji, right? Where's your game changers?
I mean, he's Kenny Clark, but even then, though, he's not. We're hoping that the injury was the issue why he played so poorly last year, right? So.
Yep. No, so if you're Ed Policy, is your leash? What's your leash? I want to end it with that. What's your leash on Gutekunst, on the floor? What's that leash like? How long is it, and how long do you let it go before you get involved?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's like if we're just, it's like being okay with mediocrity, and I understand that it's a very extreme way of looking at it, but it's like if we're going year by year, we have all this hope for the team, but then we're seeing these other teams make some moves, and the thing is like, when you're seeing teams like the Eagles make those moves, they're actually going somewhere with it. right? It's not like they're just making moves and not winning. They just won the chip. And honestly, they were in the chip 2 years ago, and last year they got knocked out, but it was because of injuries more than anything else. But the truth be told, like they consistently don't only just make moves in free agency, but they also make moves in the draft too. They trade up and get guys. They trade back. They work up and down the board to find guys that will get them to the next spot, right? And I understand like sometimes they make picks that are like name brand picks, but 9 times out of 10, those name brand picks are working. And then you got, like you just said, the Packers will sometimes be like, well, we're the smartest people in the room. We're going to get this guy who normally people would have got in the 5th or 6th round. We're going to get him, in round 2, right?
Yep.
Or we're going to get, now it did work out with Evan Williams. Evan Williams is a consensus 6th round pick. They got him in the 4th, and he turned out to be a pretty good player. So they've been hits. So we got to give him his credit. But when it comes to the 1st and 2nd rounds, your guarantees, that hasn't been the case. And so I'm with you. I'm looking forward to seeing, because I've heard Ed speak a lot. I've watched all the documentaries of the Packers, existence and history. I've heard him speak on other events too. So he's a very eloquent man, and he knows his stuff. And you could tell, like, he doesn't try to act like he knows everything, right? And he's a heck of a lot more tamer than Mark Murphy was. Mark Murphy was great, but he sometimes said the quiet part out loud more often than he should have. And I don't see Ed Policy doing that, right? And so also Ed Policy is only 54 years old. So, and the mandatory retirement is 70. So he could be here for another 16 years. You never know, right? So like, it'll be interesting to see just what comes of it. Ed Policy starts, beginning of July. So here in a couple of weeks, right? So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of stamp or impact he's going to put on this team.
I agree. I can't wait. Sometimes it's another voice in the room that kind of changes things, and it's just an opinion, right? Gutekunst doesn't have to see it as a threat. You just got to see it as an opinion in that room to him, because it's the age-old question with Gutekunst. Does the hits in the late rounds outweigh the not so good picks in the early rounds? Because now you lost Jair, right? So the early round picks for Gutekunst are out the door now.
Just Jordan right now at this point.
Yep.
Really, right?
So it's like, and until Jordan takes you to the Super Bowl, right? And Matt LaFleur and then beat him over the hump there, then you hit.
Yeah.
But until that happens, you're just a regular season dude. You're just, a stat putter up.
Exactly.
So, it's
because your other first round picks, Savage is gone, right? Jair is gone, Savage is gone, Rashawn's there, but we'll see what happens with Rashawn, right? Then you got Jordan, then you got
Van
Ness, who was not good, right?
Nope.
Or sorry, he just hasn't hit his potential yet. Even though he was a part-time player in Iowa,
we know,
right? and then you got
the Georgia boys, Devontae Wyatt and
right?
Quay.
Yeah, Quay. You got Devontae Wyatt, a 24-year-old prospect who people weren't even thinking we were going to go to first round. And then Quay, I did see that, so that was fine. Then Jordan Morgan, who another late round pick, who coming off ACL injury, again, playing, just making picks that you think, I don't know, just sometimes it's like they're overthinking it, or they're not thinking hard enough. I don't know what it is, right? And then this year, Matthew Golden was obviously the right pick. That I'm not going to complain about, because for him to go, he was a top 15 prospect. For us to get him in the 20s, I'm not going to argue with that. I like him. I like the other guys, but those guys are taken. So it's like, okay, fine, right? But again, if somehow Golden hits, and Rashawn needs to get back to form, because what I'm saying, like, he tore his ACL and he had a really bad injury. So I'm kind of wondering if it took him a little bit longer to get back than we thought, right? Maybe it's a 2-year thing instead of 1-year thing. So it'll be interesting to see just going forward what's going to occur, right? Because that Belton pick is still throwing me off, man. I understand he's a dancing bear and this and that, but it's still just Trey emotions right there.
I won't try to understand it, but we're going to try and understand it the closer we get the season here. And hopefully Brian Gutekunst is right. Hopefully he's right, and they got the pieces in the room, and we're going to see this defense and defensive line and these young guys take off. So that's what we're hoping for. But Ummer, thank you as always for stopping by. Let the people know where to find you out there.
Okay, guys. All right. So, hey, Trey, as always, thank you for having me, bro. We're probably going to go on our show, Coast to Coast Packers, probably Friday is what I'm thinking right now. You can find me on Twitter or X, but I call it Twitter, so I'm old school. Leave me alone. At AMAR3455. Reach out to me there, follow me, and just honestly, this is a dead period of the season, so we're going to be talking about all the different things that could be happening, and just our own freaking thoughts that we have on things. But just can't wait for training camp, man. It just needs to get here. We just need training camp right now.
I agree, because we're in this next week. We're about to hit the dead period in sports.
Yes,
it is.
I'm looking forward to it.
Baseball is all that we got going on right now, and outside of that, the NBA's done. Even the Stanley Cup's done. We got golf.
Yeah, I was gonna say that basketball is about to be finished here this week, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got the UFL, so I mean that's technically still around, but nobody.
Something you can watch some old Packer.
I mean, I try to get in the UFL. It doesn't have the same.
It's not the same, man.
I'll turn it on and then it'll be in the background. It's like a background thing. It's like NASCAR. No, NASCAR sucks. I can't watch NASCAR. I watch the first lap. I fall asleep. I watch the last 3 laps. Like that's where I'm at in NASCAR.
Look, say that's you better than me, man. I just throw on Netflix. I just go to Netflix and I just put something on that I ain't seen yet.
They got enough documentaries out there nowadays that it works out.
Yeah.
The Last Dance documentary, I've seen that like 14 times through. I mean, I just all these random things. So, thank you as always. We'll be back here after the break. We're going to touch in. I don't know if we got NBA talk to get to today here, or if we're going to talk Brewers, but we're going to talk when we come back. But we got lots more to get into. We'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Welcome back to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage, coming back here as we're getting close to the end of the show for the day here. And this next segment of the show, we're going to bounce around a little bit in this last segment, but this last segment of the show here is brought to you by Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood, Wisconsin. They're expert traditional physical therapy and structural integration programming. Call for flexible scheduling and evaluations. Just call 715-267-4583. Call Chad down there at Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Don't trust anyone else to get you feeling better and ready and better than ever than Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic down there. So Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood, Wisconsin there. So just had Umber on. Fantastic talk about the Packers there, about Ed Policy coming in and everything like that. If you missed any portion of the show tonight here, make sure you're following along across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. You can find the show next day. Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Find us out there. Find us across all social media. Just search Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage across social media. You'll find us somewhere. And if you want to comment in on the show or anything like that, make sure you're doing it. 715-990-4914. That is 715-990-4914. I'd love to hear what you guys got to think about whatever it is. Wisconsin sports talk, any sports talk. I love to talk sports all the time. If you know me, you know I love talking sports. So make sure you're commenting whenever you get a chance there. Follow us. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe across all social media platforms there. So we talked a little Brewers earlier. I wanted to talk about earlier in the show. I talked about, are the Brewers going to be buyers or sellers, right? Because I saw a lot of people saying after this Cubs series, we're going to find out if the Brewers are going to be buyers or sellers. This series against the Cubs will dictate that. And I was like, it's the middle of June. Like I don't know if I'm really dictating it right off of that, because there's a lot of things that can happen, right? You lose a series to the Cubs, but you go on an absolute tear and you win, 18 of the next 30 games, right? It could be something crazy. I don't know. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of things that can happen. So I'm not going to dictate completely what's going to happen there and what the Cubs are going to do, because it's not like you're in this you're in a horse race with the Cubs there, but you're also, a wild card is not out of the picture. You're still in a wild card chase. You have the Padres in there, the Giants are in there who got better. And that's where I'm looking at the Brewers now. And I'm saying, okay, if you're trying to compete for a wild card, or you're still trying to be competitive, I think the Brewers, like I said earlier on in the show, are a toes in the water but not jumping in team right now. They aren't completely there, but they're close. They're on the verge. How close are you is the question mark that I think Matt Arnold and the Brewers are asking themselves. Do they have the pieces in the room where if they go out and they maybe call the Rockies and they say, hey, Ryan McMahon's been hitting better as of late. We would like to see him come to the Brewers. What would you like from us? And we can go and make a trade for him, not send out a whole, I don't want to unload the farm on a guy, right? But get a guy like that coming in and you think he's going to be a difference maker this season. You think he can put you over top. Do you feel like you can win it's basically World Series? Like, is making the playoffs really that outside of playoff tickets, making money for the team? Outside of that, like, what, if you're not a World Series team, what are you? What are you chasing, right? So that's the question that I guess I'm asking right now. 715-990-4914. Where are you at right now if you're the Brewers? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller at this very moment if you're the Brewers? Because right now I'm a toes in, but I'm not all the way in. I'm not trading the farm. But if a team calls about Freddie or Reese, or maybe even a guy like William Contreras, I know that's crazy talk, right? But you have guys coming up, Jefferson Quero, the catcher down there in the minors. I know it's a hope that he's going to hit at the big league level, but I think he's got a ton of talent. So it's a question of, do you trust that talent that he's got there? That's where you're kind of at if you're the Brewers. Jake Bauers, do you think about moving a guy like that? if somebody called about Christian Yelich, yes, I would definitely take the phone call. But that's my opinion on it. Anyways, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you can't trade Yelich. Yeah, maybe you could. Maybe you could, right? You got a plethora of outfielders when you're healthy. Maybe you try to move a guy. Maybe Garrett Mitchell, somebody called about him. I don't think they will, but maybe a guy like that, he's on his way to Nashville right now for a rehab assignment I saw. So maybe a guy like that. But I'm definitely a team that's willing to make moves while not getting worse. I don't want to get worse by making the moves, right? If you move a guy like Rhys Hoskins, do you believe you have guys in the room who could fill that gap? I think Jake Bauers has hit well for the Brewers this year. Maybe you have a guy like Jake Bauers fit in. Do you believe Andrew Vaughn could be is he going to be a trade piece? Is it going to be, what do you see in a guy like Andrew Vaughn who you just got for in Savali deal? A guy like Bobby Dowlback, who's been hitting decent down there for AAA Nashville. Is he a guy where you could potentially see him come up to the Brewers at some point? So that's where you kind of look around and you're like, how close is this team? And I think, honestly, this season is a transition. It's like a competitive transition year. You look to the next couple of years, I think the Brewers are there. You have guys, Jesus May, Luis Pena, Cooper Pratt on the way up, Brock Wilken, you got Mike Bovey, Tyler Black will be up eventually. You got outfielders galore. Luis Lara's down there right now. He's like the next Jackson Turiel on the way up. You got Sal, you got Terang, you got, Jefferson Cuero, the catcher out there. You got pitchers galore, Henderson, Carlos Rodriguez, Jacob Mizorowski's already up in the bigs. You got a lot of guys, a lot of young guys, a lot of young guns. I am not even tipping the iceberg at the pitchers they got down there. They have pitching prospects galore that are darn good. So they have a lot of weapons for future, and you got Abner Uribe already up. You got a lot of young guys who are weapons for the future. So it's like, you look, where are they at? I think a couple of years from now, they're going to be competing. 2026, 2027. I think that's when the young guys come up, and I think they compete. I think they take the league by storm when those young guys come up, and they turn out to be kind of like like an Orioles team from last year. I know they kind of fell off a cliff this year, but an Orioles team from last year, but with better pitching. I think so. That's where I'm kind of at. That's where I'm kind of seeing this team right now, is they're going to be a team that's going to build it up from the ground. They're going to have all these young guys. The question is, and this is where I'm at right now, I am going to all these young guys right now. If you have faith that they're going to be good, you got to pull a simple, let's sign you guys for a little bit and bet on you, right? We're going to bet on you. We're going to give you this contract, and you're going to basically bet on yourself. That's where I'm at. The Jackson Chourio deal, right? Long-term, not a boatload of money yet because you haven't done anything yet. That's where I'm at right now with these young guys. That's where I'm at. Like Terang, you got to make that deal here pretty darn soon because he's a Gold Glove second baseman who's hitting the ball. Sal Frelick, I don't think he's going to really demand a huge amount, but he's still hitting the ball. So you're going to have guys who are going to come do money here pretty soon. Not, in the future here, and you're going to have to be able to find ways to make these moves. And that's where I'm kind of looking at the Brewers right now. I'm like, sign some of these guys up right now. Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? I have no idea. It's like they play these games with extensions and options and all this crap. And then you get the Freddie Peralta situation where now he's got an option year next year, but you're looking at trading him, and he's been pitching pretty darn well. So anyways, we'll see what the Brewers there, but I'd love to hear what you guys got to think. If you missed what I had to say about it, listen back on the podcast there, Wisconsin Sports on the Go Trades, or text into the show here, 715-990-4914. So the Brewers, they dropped game one to the Cubs there, 5-3. Game two is going on as we're talking, so I don't have much that I can really throw in on that. It's 7. Yeah, it's on right now. So maybe you're listening to me, maybe you're listening to the Brewers, maybe you're listening to both. I have no idea. Maybe you're watching and listening. But the Brewers game one, they left 9 guys on base, 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Yelich goes 0 for 1. Hoskins 0 for 2. Contreras again 0 for 1. Ortiz got a hit. Collins was 0 for 1. Frelick was 0 for 1. And Durbin was 0 for 2. Cubs left 5 guys on base. They hit a couple home runs. That one by, I don't know, was that Strinsky? What are you trying to throw there? It's just a get me over cutter there to start that eighth, I believe it was the 8th inning there. What was that? And then, Peter Crow Armstrong just takes him completely yard to start that inning. Suzuki had a pretty good swing on a home run swing that he had early on in the game. Kyle Tucker continues to tear the cover off the ball every time I see him. But it just, this Brewers team, once again, runners in scoring position. And I just don't, we moved Terang down in the order. I don't understand why you moved Terang down. What is the presence of Christian Yelich in the 4 spot doing for me at this point? Really, what is it? We have Isaac Collins, who's got a 375 slugging right now. That's ahead of Contreras. That's ahead of Durbin, Ortiz. It's ahead of guys that you wouldn't even think he was ahead of. Then you look at his on-base percentage right now. Isaac Collins has got a higher on-base percentage. Look at across there. Then, Chourio, he's got a higher on-base percentage than Yelich, she's got a higher on base percentage than, a couple different guys. This Brewers lineup right now, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing them tinkering around with Contreras and Yelich in that middle half right now, because the middle half of your lineup, it's been a couple times now where they're like, oh, the middle half of the lineup's coming up. Be scared. And it's like, I'm not scared of this middle half of the lineup right now for the Brewers, right? It's just the amount of guys we're seeing left on base is reminiscent of what we've seen for years now with this team. They just struggle to bring in runners. We saw what was the ultimate failure in that Diamondback series in the playoffs a couple years ago. Runners in scoring position. I think that one game they had 22 guys on base, and they scored, I think, one run out of it. It was terrible. The Brewers are the one team where you can load up the bases with nobody out and somehow find a way to not score a run. They do that more times than I believe anybody else. I don't know if it's a stat. Don't quote me as a stat, but it just feels like it watching it. I am just watching this team right now, and it's like, okay, how are you going to compete with a team like the Cubs if you're in a game like this and the Cubbies they find ways to score runs, you put guys on base, and at the end of the day, you end up leaving 9 guys on base and you're 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Not going to win many games like that. So the Brewers, as I'm talking right now, they lose 5-3. They still you got Mizorowski going for the Brewers coming up here. That'll be 7:05 start tonight. So as we're talking right now, that game's going on. So Mizorowski's in that one against Jamison Talon. And then you're going to have Peralta go against Horton coming up on Thursday, that 1:20 start there. So you're going to have your guns. Hopefully Mizorowski can give you a good outing. You can score some runs for him. Then you got Peralta going for you on Thursday. You got to find a way to salvage these, at least a game in this series, right? If not 2. To make it come out of this, because then you got Twins coming up after that. You got Pittsburgh. You got the Rockies. Here's the thing. If you can handle your business, if you win this series somehow with Chicago, right? And they're not going to win. I'm hoping they do, right? And then you take the Twins on, you go to Minnesota, and you win that. You come back home, you got Pittsburgh and you got Colorado. 2 winnable series that you have against those 2. You face Skeens, but we know Skeens can't win games because he gives up 1 run and he loses. So you got Pittsburgh and Colorado. Then you play the Mets, but then you have the Marlins in there. So you're going to have an easier stretch of games coming up if you are the Brewers. But you got to win these games with some competitive teams. And right now, the biggest problem I see with the Milwaukee Brewers is when I look at this team, you want to have it realistically when you look at the end of the day. You want to have about a 500, probably about a 750 record at home, probably about 750. And on the road, you want to be about 500. On the road right now, they're 16-20. At home, they're 23-15. We got to see the home game start to take off a little bit there. But on the road, you got to see them, find ways to win games. Look at what the Cubs are doing this year. 24-12 at home, 21-16 on the road. That tells you what the Cubs have done so far in the year. So right now, you're chasing the Cubs. Right now, you are currently, I believe, 6.5 back as we're talking right now. Maybe you find ways to salvage a couple games here. The Cubs, I saw at one point they had one of the easier schedules to start the year. Hopefully that schedule starts to get a little more daunting on them. They're going to play Seattle, then St. Louis, then Houston, then Cleveland, then St. Louis again, then the Twins, then the Yankees. So, they have a tough stretch of games coming up for the Cubs. This is a time where the Brewers got to pick up ground. And how is that going to start? Your bats have got to get going here. That's plain and simple. Your bats got to get going. They got to find a way to put runs across the board right now, because the left on base is the big stat that's sticking out to me right now with this Milwaukee Brewers team. So that's about all. We could go on and on, but I'm running out of time. This is where I get every single week. I just drag. I get all over the place, and then I run out of time here. So we're going to come back. We're going to wrap it up for the day here. We're going to get out of here. So we'll be right back here on Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade when we wrap up the hour. Welcome back in as we wrap up the show here for the day on this Wednesday, June 18th, a fantastic Wednesday here in the great state of Wisconsin. We got into it all tonight here. We talked top of the show. We talked a little NBA. Kyle wasn't able to stop by tonight here. He got underneath the weather. He wasn't able to stop by. So Kyle wasn't able. We talked NBA a little bit earlier on. We talked what was grinding my gears. We talked the Wilson Contreras situation. We talked Brewers. We talked Packers today here. We got back into the Brewers. We were all over the place, bouncing around. And sadly, like always, we ran out of time because we could talk about this all stinking night. We could run it for 4 hours if we wanted to, and we'd never run out of things to talk about. But sadly, we ran out of time tonight here on the show. So like I always tell you guys, make sure you follow, like, subscribe across all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you can find us out there. Search Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. You'll find us out there. If you missed any portion of the show, make sure you're listening back on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get podcasts. You can find a show out there. Just search Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Make sure you're stopping into Foreman's out there. If you need some physical therapy, stop in at Sport and Spine. They got, you can stop in at the racetrack. I believe this weekend there's going to be a race happening at the racetrack this weekend, so make sure you're checking in to what's going on down there at Marshfield Motor Speedway. And then, like always, make sure you're checking out Warm Kids Wisconsin out there, because Warm Kids Wisconsin is the group that we are working with now, and they are fantastic. They're supplying kids with warm clothes for this upcoming winter season. So with that, that's about all we got for tonight here. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night, but until I talk to you guys again next Wednesday, see ya.